I'm George Shapiro, and this is Game Changers, and this is Vicki Abelson.
Oh, yay, George!
Yay.
You said my name right. I'm so happy. Hi, George.
Oh, hi.
Wait, where's
It's
Andy?
Abelson, don't forget. She has an incredible future in front of her. She's brilliant. Are we on camera?
Yeah.
Oh.
Where's Andy Kaufman? Show me Andy.
Andy Kaufman is down there.
And who is this?
This is Rosie the Riveter.
Why is it Rosie the Riveter?
Well, because she was helpful in World War II.
No, she didn't in World War II. She didn't live that long.
Oh, her name is Rosie, and that was a famous title way before you were born during World War II.
Well, not so way.
There was a great character, Rosie the Riveter.
And
Andy Kaufman is Amy Hyatt's dog. Amy Hyatt is my producer.
Hi,
I
Amy.
work with.
You can talk. We want to hear you. You can talk from back there.
She has a dog named Andy Kaufman.
And okay, so I don't think you know this story. Because George and I have met many times at Phil Rosenthal's house.
Phil Rosenthal is a mutual friend of ours, and we both love him. I'm in love with him. She likes him.
No, I love him madly. But don't tell Monica. I love Phil.
No,
but I love Monica almost as much as I love Phil.
You don't tell Katie how much I love Phil.
So
Katie.
So all right. So this is a story I've never told you before. Because of Andy Kaufman, George's client, and George made Andy. So we're going to talk about that. I quit smoking when Andy died. I quit smoking 33 and a half years ago because he died of lung cancer, and he had never smoked a cigarette. But I was so impacted by the fact that he died of lung cancer. Yeah. My mother was trying to get me to quit for 10 years. Nothing worked. Andy died, I quit smoking like 3 days later.
Yeah, I quit smoking because I burned someone's desk when I was working at William Morris, and he was a paratrooper, and he was a killer, trained killer like me. So I burnt the thing, and I said, I'm quitting smoking, because he chased me down the hall. Luckily, I was a faster runner than him. But that's when I quit smoking.
Really? How old?
I was 30 when I quit smoking.
I was about 30 also.
Well, we have so much in common. It's a phenomenon. This is a phenomenon.
It's a phenomenon.
As Lenny Lauren would say, this is a phenomenon.
Okay, so George, there's things making noise in here. But that's okay, because I don't know, something, you have a little with the hearing, so it's okay.
I'm deaf in one ear, but I could hear in this ear.
Okay, so why are you deaf?
Anti-aircraft artillery in after World War II.
So what happened?
Korean. Well, I was in the infantry. I'm a trained killer in the infantry.
Okay, now stop. What does trained killer mean?
Oh, you learn every weapon. With bayonets, with M1s.
Did you ever kill anybody?
Guns. I don't want to talk about it. No,
okay.
No, I didn't.
You didn't?
No.
You're a Jewish boy. You can't kill people.
Oh, yeah. I could kill people.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'm not afraid. No tengo miedo. Comprende? No tengo miedo. I'm not afraid. Then I went into the Army does things a little silly. I was in the infantry.
Yeah.
18 weeks of infantry training, advanced infantry training. And then they sent me into the artillery and then a missile battalion. And I don't want to talk about the end of my career because I'm embarrassed by it.
Okay.
I became a lifeguard at the WAC swimming pool at Fort Monroe, Virginia.
Did you really?
Yeah, with all my training as a killer. That's what the Army does.
Did you save anybody's life as a lifeguard?
Well, one WAC.
A WAC is a woman
Women's Army Corps.
A women's Army Corps.
Women's Army Corps.
And did you really save a WAC?
Yes, I saved one WAC.
Wow.
Yeah, but I could have saved more.
Well, I don't know. You saved one. You let the rest of them go. Oh, God. See, George, how come you were not? So, George, all right, for anybody who's been under a rock and doesn't know, George is the king of comedy. He is the Sultan.
I'm so embarrassed. Go ahead.
But he's the Sultan of show because, and I love your line from Man in the Moon. Your character Betterman, is that the character's name? And you say
Mr. Besselman.
Besselman.
Mr. Besserman.
There is no. Without business, there is no show.
Yeah, well, I put that in.
Did you really?
Yes, I threw that line in. Yeah. I said, it's show business, Andy. I said, try some jokes, Then I threw in that joke. I said, well, why did the Siamese twins go to England? He said, why? So the other one could drive. He said, and then Andy said, as Jim Carrey, he said, well, why can't the other? Never mind. But don't you understand? You can't sing Pop Goes the Weasel all the time. People are going to walk out in the middle of the act. It's show business, show business. Without the show, there's no business.
It's fantastic. Actually, Phil Rosenthal
Without the business, there's no show. That's it. Without the business, there's no show. And Jim was following. Jim was amazing. You know, because I loved Andy Kaufman. He brought Andy completely back to life. 4 months he was on the set. There was no Jim Carrey. The cast and crew never met Jim Carrey.
Wow.
He was Andy Kaufman in character the whole time. Even Milos Forman, 2-time, Oscar winner, could not communicate, with Jim Carrey. It was all Andy Kaufman.
Okay, so before we get to the man in the moon, I want to know a little bit about George Shapiro and how you got to Andy. So I know
that's a good story,
right? I want to hear the story because I don't know the story. So where did you grow up in the Bronx? Are you a Bronx boy?
Yes.
Where?
I was living on Marshallwood Parkway and Jerome Avenue. Went to PS 80 in the Bronx, where also Ralph Lauren. His name was Ralphie Lifshitz. Ralph Lauren went there, and Calvin Klein. 2 of the world-class designers were PS 80. Gary Marshall, Penny Marshall, Rob Reiner.
Wow.
Robert Klein went to PS 80.
I went to PS 83.
Our school upon the parkway we all delight to see in measures
Dear
that
PS 83, we give our thanks to thee in song of praise. Our voices we raise to dear old 83.
Oh, 80, dear 80. When old and gray will love you just the same. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, so I went to 83 in Castle Hill, in the Bronx.
Right. We lived pretty close to each other.
Pretty close. And I heard that I don't want to jump around all of it. We're going to jump around.
Don't be afraid.
We're going to jump. My book is called Don't Jump, and your uncle published it. Carl Reiner.
Uncle Carl Reiner published the book.
He did.
Yes.
Don't Jump, Sex, Drugs, Rock and Roll, My Fucking Mother. And
Ooh.
I know.
You're allowed to say that on this kind of a telecast?
We are. Wow. You can say anything you want.
Oh, God.
Okay, so let's get back to George. So you grew up by Mashula Parkway.
No, you see, mispronounced it. It's Marshall.
See, but we say Mashula.
I know, but all the people that mispronounce it.
Because I was from Bellem Parkway.
They
we said Mashula Parkway.
Yes, right.
Tell me how to say it.
Marshallu.
It wasn't really Marshallu?
That's the Indian name. The correct Indian name is Marshallu.
I'm telling you, my whole life I've said Mashula.
Oh, that's so
It's
sad.
so,
It's
so sad. All right, so you grew up in the Bronx. Okay, now, Carl wasn't your uncle from the very beginning.
No, Carl became my uncle when I was 12 years old, and he married my Aunt Estelle, who's my mama's sister. What a great, wonderful, incredible, creative aunt she was.
What a voice.
Yeah, what a
voice.
Beautiful jazz singer. And she made me these Easter eggs when I was a little boy. Beautiful paint. She's an artist.
Right,
Beautiful
she's
painted
Jewish.
Easter egg.
Yeah?
Yes, and I was like 3, 4, 5 years old. And
Yeah?
she made me, I still remember those eggs. They're so
Wow.
beautiful.
So when Carl became your uncle, he was already Carl Reiner.
Yeah, I was very proud of him before he was even in show business because he was a soldier.
Yes.
He was a soldier in World War II.
Mm-hmm.
He was a corporal, and he was 21 years old, and my Aunt Estelle was 29.
Right, she was an older woman.
Yes, it was unusual in those days.
It was.
Yeah, there was an 8-year age difference.
Uh-huh.
And when he came in to my Uncle Eddie's house, I was so excited because we didn't have any soldiers in our family. We didn't have no one in the military.
Really?
So he was the first one.
Oh, wow.
So when he came in to my Aunt Sylvia's house, my Uncle Eddie and Aunt Sylvia, I jumped on his shoulders. I was so excited.
Oh.
And he could have thrown me down, but instead he gave me a piggyback ride.
Aww.
So that's why I loved Uncle Carl since I'm 12 years old.
How did he meet Estelle?
They worked at a place called Alabin Acres. It was
The Catskills?
Yeah, it wasn't. I don't know if it was the Catskills. It might have been the Adirondacks, but it was a resort where Estelle worked in the set design and Carl was an actor, and that's how they met.
And then he went to war, but they were writing to each other.
Yeah,
the
she
whole
was.
time.
Oh yeah, they have incredible letters, and I think Carl has all of them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because he was in the South Pacific, and he was supposed to go to Iwo Jima, and then he went into special services. Then he met up at the end of the war. He had met up with his original company.
So when he became your uncle, it was before he was really Carl Reiner, like.
Yeah. I mean, he was 21 years old, and he was in the army
since
since he was like 19 or 20. So he was not famous, but he was in the army. They recognized him, so he did special services.
Yeah.
So he used to do stand-up comedy and sketches. You know, he used to do these sketches. He did, you know, at his wedding. My mother said, "Do Adolf Hitler," because he did a hilarious Hitler. You know, him and Mel have that in common, and making fun of Adolf Hitler. So Carl did the whole thing with a mustache, and at his wedding we were all hysterical. So I knew he was funny.
Yeah.
You know, from the time I first met him.
Uh-huh.
And then he, you know, he went into the show of shows, and when I was a teenager, I used to go down there and watch the show of shows and meet Sid Caesar and Mel Brooks and Imogene Coca and Howie Morris.
Did you know? Did that spark your interest in show business?
That was one of the huge things that sparked my interest in show business. But what really did it when I was like 19, 20 years old, I was a lifeguard at Tamament in the Pocono Mountains, which is a resort where they had a theatrical staff that came up every week.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they had singers and dancers. Dick Shawn was a comedian. Neil Simon, Doc Simon, and his brother Danny Simon were the head writers. Herb Ross was a choreographer.
Oh my gosh!
And he ended up, you know, doing Turning Point and Footloose. And,
yes.
You know, the Goodbye
Girl.
Goodbye Girl, and also the Sunshine Boys. He did all these great movies.
Wow.
He was a choreographer, so I used to watch him, you know, create these dance numbers. Then when I became an agent, I became an agent because these guys used to come up and dance with the girls. I gave them rowboats and canoes, and they used to have dinner with these beautiful singers and dancers. I said, "This is what you do for a living? I mean, this is your job?" So I said, I had to go to the army, you know, to keep you all free.
Yes, we thank you.
Where's the hat? We thank you for your service.
Well, let's get the hat.
Let's get the hat.
Let's go.
And thank you. You can throw it to me, Christina. Thank you. And Christina's behind the camera. Hi, Christina. Good.
Hey, Christina's an incredible. Not only is she beautiful, but she's a talented cinematographer.
She is.
Oh,
So that's good. So this says thank you, veterans, and I didn't do that much personally. Mister, I'm talking to you. I did not do that much personally.
I knew Jackie Mason.
Yes, very good. At least I did a good impression of Jackie
You
Mason.
did a good impression.
But I love veterans. I love what they do, and I feel very fortunate that they are here to defend our country.
And you were one of them, and a trained killer, which is crazy, because look at you. You don't look like a trained killer.
That's the beauty of it.
You fool them.
That's the beauty of it. They're not expecting it. They're not expecting to get killed by me. That's the beauty of my smile. And being a trained killer, that combo. There's not that many combos around.
All right. So,
All right.
So did you ever want to be in front of the camera? Was there ever the dream to perform?
You see, this is what's I have to tell you something.
Yeah.
You know, I didn't want to do this. I did this because, you know,
Because I begged and pleaded.
She begged me, and you know, Phil Rosenthal is such a good friend. You know, Vicki and I both. So how could I say no? See, you know, I always say I don't want to be a celebrity. You know, like Jerry Seinfeld said, I don't want to be a pirate. You know, I don't want to be a celebrity. You know, I'm around celebrities all the time. You know, I worked a lot with Steve Martin and Jim Carrey and Carl Reiner and Jerry Seinfeld and you know, there's such a rush to them. They don't have the privacy that I enjoy.
So never once as a little kid. Did you do plays in school when you were a little kid?
When I went to Camp Trooper in Colchester, Connecticut, I don't want to sing that song because I don't want to make this a musical. Because I know all the songs.
Yes.
Hear the sound of campers' voices ringing clear and true. Troop and troop. Okay. I won't go there.
I went to camp too. My father was a master of ceremonies in the Catskill Mountains.
Well, you really?
So that's my whole upbringing for all my life.
That's incredible.
So all right, so.
So I did one thing. I was in a play.
Yeah.
And I did one thing, and I grabbed someone's hat and I ran across the stage and I got a laugh. I said, "Hey, this is fun." But that's all. But I really, also when I was 5, 6 years old, I tap danced, you know, and it was pretty good as a tap dancer.
Cute.
But then the kids made fun of me because we had metal steps and my metal taps would click, 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 and they said, "Look at him, he's a sissy. He dances."
Oh no.
And I stopped.
No.
So the greatest regret of my life.
Is it true?
Yeah.
You could still do
I
it.
would still be tap dancing today.
It's
I have this
never-
energy. I have energy to dance.
It's never too late to leap, shuffle, ball, change.
That's good.
It's never too late.
She's so wise.
Yes.
Okay, so you realized that if you became an agent, so how did the agent thing happen?
Oh well, I was saying I worked at Tamament
Right.
and had a theater staff which was founded by Max Lieben. You know, this was about 4 or 5 years before I came.
Okay.
He brought up an entire staff with singers and dancers, choreographers, writers, composers. Sheldon Harnick was up there, Larry Hollofcenter, You know, they worked up there the year I was there. And Dick Shawn was the head comic.
Dick Shawn, one of the funniest men
Oh
ever
my
in the
God!
history of the
He
world.
so it was a joy. Not only that, but I really connected to laughter then, and that sort of set the tone. But then
Was your house funny? Were your parents funny?
Yeah, I mean they weren't like they both had a great sense of humor. They enjoyed life, you know, and they both had a great sense of humor. My father just had fun in life, and I got that spirit. He was a furrier.
Funny furrier.
A funny furrier. But the one thing I knew when growing up, I didn't want to be a furrier. I didn't want to be a celebrity. I didn't want to be a furrier.
What was the first
I didn't want to be a celebrity.
What was the first thing you wanted to be when you grew up? Like when you were a little kid?
When I was a little kid, I wanted to play baseball.
Oh.
And I wanted to play for the Dodgers because.
Wait a minute, I thought you were a Yankee fan.
I was from the Bronx.
Yeah.
And there's 15 of us friends like since we're 5 years old.
Wow.
And Howard West, my partner, who left us 3 years ago, and I love him. And out of the 15 guys, 2 of us went with the underdogs. The Yankees were so dominant. The New York Yankees were so dominant. And the Dodgers were sort of colorful underdogs. So we both gravitated, the 2 of us. We suffered a lot.
You
because
suffered?
the Yankees, I think I made a mistake. But I didn't. I love the Dodgers. I love them to this day.
But that was when
2
they
more
were...
heartbreaks, the last 2 World Series.
But,
I don't want to talk about it.
But that's when they were the Brooklyn Dodgers,
yes,
and you were Bronx Boys.
Yes, that's right.
So
we had a tough time.
But that's amazing
But,
that you've been a Dodger
listen to
fan
this.
all that time.
The greatest year of my life,
Yes.
the greatest year of the life of George Shapiro, this is breaking news for some people, was 1955.
That's
when
the
the
year I was
Dodgers,
born,
the
George.
Dodgers beat the Yankees in the World Series. You hate Dodgers, 1955. I'm stuck there. Okay.
I was born then.
And you were born in 1955.
I was.
What a great year for us. Isn't that great? Isn't life fun?
I was blessed.
Isn't life fun?
Life is fun.
Isn't that great?
And this is the energy.
Isn't that an amazing coincidence?
It is
1955 was the best year of my life, and hopefully it was the best year of your parents' life.
Hopefully. Hopefully. All right. So get back to the story about why you're up at Tamerman and you see this whole show being produced.
Yes, and then on the weekends they did a full show. They worked all week on original music and choreography and sketches.
Okay.
They wrote all this, and they presented it on Sunday, and then they'd work all week for the next one, which was on the following Saturday. And the guests would come up on Sunday.
Right.
It was a singles place, so it was a great place to be a lifeguard. I was a hyphenate. I was a lifeguard, stagehand, and usher.
Nice.
So we also more of show business because sometimes we had to work backstage and all that. So I watched them put on this show every week. There was when the guests came up, they saw a new show on Sunday, and then the following Saturday they see a show, and then on Wednesday they had an Ed Sullivan type show, a variety show, where Barbara Cook was a singer up there, and she would sing, and Dick Shawn would do a stand-up comedy. You know, so they'd have like an Ed Sullivan kind of variety show. So the guests up, the place was fantastic. So the guests saw 3 shows during the week. You know, Sunday, Wednesday, and Saturday. And then as lifeguards, we had to come down and dance with the girls because there's always more girls than boys. So that was our assignment. We had to come down on Saturday night after the show.
Kind of like the Dirty Dancing thing, right? A little bit like that. The Catskills were a little bit like that.
The funny thing is, the Dirty Dancing, that was the exact rooms that we had. Those little rooms that you shared, like 2 guys shared a little room, and it was exactly the same in Dirty Dancing.
Was it called the Shacks where you were? Where I was, it was called the Shacks, where the staff lived.
Well, we were in different cabins, so it wasn't one big place.
Right.
It was like 4 people in a cabin, and you had a roommate.
And so what made you think the idea
But when I talk to these agents,
yeah.
and they come up and they're having dinner with these beautiful singers and dancers and.
Look at all the love you're getting. You're getting a lot of love. See all the hearts flying up? That's people sending you love.
I didn't know that. Oh my God.
Look at all the love. It's not stopping.
Oh my God.
Yeah, there's so much love for you.
Wow.
Look at all these people loving you.
Here's a couple of black ones. You see, you called attention to it. Now they're saying, forget about that guy. Forget him. No thank you. No thank you.
No, look, you're getting so much love. I can't believe
You distracted me from our interview.
All right, so
because I was just focused on
being an agent.
Oh, So that's what started me, and I got a job in the mailroom for $38 a week, which was my worst negotiation. $38 per week. And I asked the head of the mailroom, I said, "Are you sure that's the minimum wage?" And he said, "That is precisely the minimum age. Wage. I still get upset that I work for $38 a week, but then I got a raise to 40, and then 42.
How long were you in the mailroom?
I was in the mailroom for 13 months.
Okay.
Which isn't bad compared to the training today.
Right.
Also, I wanted to go into I could have gone into the personal appearance department, but I really was looking for theater department or television or motion pictures. So I sort of waited until an opening came up where you're working for an agent. So I waited, and then I worked in the television department. However, the first one was a legit department, but my boss got fired.
Ooh.
Then I worked in the television department. My boss got fired.
Ooh.
So it wasn't looking good for George Shapiro. They said, "That's George Shapiro. Look at the black cloud over there."
But you were still there, though.
But I was still there, floating around to different, an assistant to different people. And then Ben Griefer, God bless him, took me in as he was a packaging agent in television, putting shows together.
And that was your
which
thing?
is really my learning about producing. So I worked for him, and that worked out great. And then I started a room. I was being transferred to LA because all the production was going to LA. So I started that room, and the room it took. And they sold a Steve Allen show, variety show. So I came out to LA, to do that. Then it became the Smothers Brothers. I worked on with the Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour.
I love that show.
And I found Jim Neighbors at the Horn. He was a film cutter.
You found him?
Yeah, when he was working as a film cutter. But he used to go to this club to sing. Vicki Carr worked there, and Jack Lawrence, and a few other people. And it was a great club. And then I found Jim, and I signed him to William Morris, and then he got the. In fact, I sent a letter to Aaron Rubin, the producer, to check him out, to maybe work, and so he got signed as Gomer Pyle, the gas attendant on Andy Griffith, and one season later he got spun off into Gomer Pyle, USMC.
It was amazing.
So that was hot. It was all
who
about
else?
comedy.
Who were your other clients when you were at William Morris?
Well, let's see now. I worked with Bill Persky and Sam Denner for my writing clients, and
didn't Bill Persky do all of the?
He created That Girl with Sam Denoff. They were my first clients, and after that I did the Andy Williams show, and then I sent material to Carl Reiner, and they ended up doing the Dick Van Dyke show and producing it when Carl did The Russians Are Coming. So they took over, and they did that, and it
was Carl your first? Okay, so how long were you an agent before you decided to go into personal management?
I was an agent. I worked at William Morris combined 18 years.
That's a long time.
And that was including working in the mailroom and an assistant, and then.
And what did you package? What was some of the things you worked on when you were packaging?
Well, it was the Jim Neighbors, the Gomer Pyle, and That Girl, and Smothers Brothers Comedy Hour, and then specials with Dick Van Dyke. Did a special, Mary Tyler Moore, Carol Channing. So I was working on those variety shows, and then I decided.
Was Howard working with you there as well?
It's funny. My relationship with Howard. I got him a job as a lifeguard at
Okay, start how you met Howard.
We were 8 years old at the PS 80 in the Bronx, and the other friends of mine were 5 years old. We were all for a friend, and he was a new kid that just transferred to the school, and he was sitting on a stoop. Just alone.
They don't know what a stoop is, George.
It's a step. It's a step.
Oh, stoop. See, Christina didn't know what a stoop is. People out here don't know a stoop.
Okay, a stoop is like the stairs leading up to a door usually.
Oh, okay.
And
we used to play on the stoop.
We used to play stoop ball.
Yeah.
It was a curb ball. We called it stoop
with
ball.
With a pink Spalding.
Yeah, that's right. That's in the Bronx Boys. We did these HBO specials when we were 70 years old called the Bronx Boys. And we're doing another one called The Bronx.
That's what Amy was telling me.
Yeah, we're doing another one. Anyhow, I met Howie, and he was all alone. I said, "Look, you want to? We play stickball and football and stick after school." So he joined us. So we played stickball and basketball and football, and then we were friends since we were 8 years old, and we became partners.
So how did it happen?
The first partnership was comic books. Because you know, it cost 10 cents for a comic book. And so we each chipped in 5 cents each. That's where we first became partners.
Oh.
And also we bought the first adventure comic book where Superman was featured. Now, I don't want to say I feel bad about that, I didn't keep it.
Oh.
It cost 10 cents, and it was just sold for $3 million.
Stop!
I swear to God.
I believe it, yeah.
Are you kidding
I
me?
swear to God. You know, I don't know if the rest of the country does that. In the Bronx, when you swear to God, you go pinky swear.
I never heard
That goes right to
I'll
God.
start.
I swear to God.
I like it.
Yeah. But it was so prominent, and every time I wanted someone to believe us, we said that. I swear to God. Pinky swear. Pinky.
We used to do pinky swear this way.
You did? Oh,
Yeah.
you did it too?
Yeah, but we did
'Cause
this.
I didn't know it lasted that
Pinky
long.
swear was this. You had to go
Yeah,
like this.
We did it both ways. But if you didn't have the other pinky around, you swear to God. You know, but that's
It sold for $3 million.
and also, yeah, it sold for $3 million. You look it up, they may have gone beyond that by now.
That's
So,
crazy.
and I gravitated to comedy because when I was at William Morris, after the Steve Allen show was canceled,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I was working with writers and dramatic actors, and you know, the funny thing is, when they get depressed, dramatic people, they really get depressed. But when comedy writers get depressed, they're hilarious.
They're still funny.
I mean, they just are funny.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know, it's just it just happens that way. Jerry Belson was one of the writers. He was depressed. It was hilarious. He would come in if there was something wrong, and we would just laugh our asses off. It was just so funny.
Okay, so you got Howard a job at William Morris?
I got him a job initially in the mailroom when I started there,
Yeah.
but he got impatient and he went for another job. Then when I got transferred out here, I begged them to hire Howard, even though he was married with a kid, and they finally said yes if I could have him as my assistant. So he came out from the Bronx, you know, out here, and he was my assistant. And like in 2 years, he was running the television department.
Wow.
He has the greatest business mind.
Wow.
So when I went into business, I just was hoping he would join me because I'm so not a businessman that I left in August. Once I had the vision of going into Bernie Brillstein, who was
I was just going to say, how did that happen?
Bernie Brillstein blazed the trail for me. He was used to work at William Morris, used to deliver mail to him. I thought he was the biggest agent because he had all these pictures of Frank Sinatra and Sammy Davis Jr. and Sophia Loren and Kirk Douglas and Burt Lancaster. Had all these pictures. And I come back to the mail, this guy has to be the biggest agent in the world. He said, no, he just got out of the mailroom 3 months ago. He's in publicity. He sent it. But that's how naive I was. Anyway, but he had left the agency business, and he signed Lorne Michaels and Gilda Radner and all the people from SNL, John Belushi, and he started producing movies. So I said, that's the path I want to follow. Once I made up my mind, I just bolted. I didn't wait for my bonus in December. So Howard, in his infinite wisdom, he stayed till December, got his bonus, and then he joined me, and I was the best thing that ever happened to me in my life.
Okay, so when you left, what was the impetus for what was the exact impetus for your leaving? Did you take a client with you?
My impetus was leaving is, I asked Abe Lasvogel, who was the president of William Morris, I said, Abe, do I have to wear a tie every day? And he said, yes, that's the code. I said, thank you very much. And I bolted.
Did you take a client with you? Did you take anyone with you?
Well, it was Bill Persky and Sam Danoff, and there was a wonderful comic named Lonnie Shore who came with us, and Carl Reiner, he came with me, and then we signed Andy Kaufman and Marty Feldman.
Okay, so now Andy was never exactly. I see the 1955 poster up on your wall.
That's right. That's a 19. You can't see it, but maybe we'll do an insert someday in the future.
Yes.
But that's a 1955.
I'm going to take a picture of it before
1955 Dodgers who beat the Yankees in the World Series, and Pee Wee Reese.
Don't tell my son.
Pee Wee Reese was my favorite player because he was little, and you see that B that was for Brooklyn. And that's his induction into the Hall of Fame. And that's Jackie Robinson, who I love with all my heart, and so did Howard, Stealing Home.
I'm gonna take pictures of Christina and I are gonna take pictures of all this stuff, and we'll post it for you guys.
And don't forget the picture with my.
Well, yeah, with that one, that's in infamy now.
with my body shop.
Okay, so Carl, when
okay.
Carl went with you for personal management, what was he up to in his career at that point?
He was doing the Dick Van Dyke.
He was doing Dick Van Dyke when you went off?
Yeah. And but you asked me about Andy Kaufman, and the connection was Carl Reiner.
How so?
Because Carl Reiner saw Andy, Aunt Stella and Uncle Carl, and they were in New York.
Yeah.
And they went to Catch a Rising Star, and then he saw Andy Kaufman, and then like the day after he came back, we had lunch. I remember the NBC commissary. We just had lunch, and Dick Van Dyke was there. The three of us, Dick Van Dyke and Carl. And then Carl was telling me about Andy Kaufman. He said, "George, you have to get on a plane tomorrow, and you have to fly to New York and see this guy. He plays at the Catch a Rising Star in the Improv, and I never saw anyone like that." He said he does his thing. He talks like this, and it's funny. Carl did his whole act except, his impressions. Hello, I am the President of the United States. Hello, I'm Jimmy Carter, President of the United States. Thank you very much. And now I do in the Archie Bunker. Okay, going into the kitchen, getting me the food, dingy batty. So Carl did this whole thing. I'm hysterical, like you. I'm hysterical. So, and then as a coincidence, the next day, Bud Friedman, who owns the Improv, called me and said he's working with this kid in Improv New York. He's going to fly him out to the Melrose Hollywood Improv. So that was, as they say in Yiddish, b'shert. It was meant to be. So Bud invited me out, and I saw Andy, and he was so crazy. I like offbeat things, and so I just totally connected with him. Like Howard, that was a little different kind of an act for Howard, but for me, it just totally connected. And
how about as a person? Because I don't know anything about Andy as a person. So when you're talking to Andy as a person, are you getting that stuff?
That's a good question. Because I thought he was so crazy, being on stage and what he does, and the conga drums, all this stuff.
It's great.
I said, this guy may be nuts, and I may not want to work with him. So now, and also when he turned into Elvis Presley, it was a magic, because that's the explosion of the whole act.
Right.
Doing all these stupid impressions that are terrible, and then he said, "Now I have to do the Elvis Presley." Couple of people, come on, and people are walking out, and then he turns into Elvis Presley.
And he really turns into
the music of 2001, and he combs his hair and he turns around and he's Elvis. Thank you very much. You better not be. And he sings these songs, and we found out later from Elvis that he was his favorite. Because there was like 1,000 impressionists.
At least. Yeah.
And he said, and his band guys we met, and he said, he always talked about how funny Andy. He said, I like Andy because he's funny, and I like the way he moves his lip. So Carl did the whole impression, and then when I saw him, I loved him, and I said I have to have lunch and dinner with him before I would sign him.
So what was that like? What was going to lunch with Andy like?
Andy was talking about his brother and sister and his mother and his father. And
was he being normal?
Yeah. Well, that was the thing. It was very warm. And he loved his Aunt Lily. When he used to fly to New York, we'd stop off in Florida to see his grandma Lily. And so he touched me, and as a human being, then I worked with him, and I put up with his craziness because he followed his own drummer. He was so unique. So I just absolutely loved working with him, and just career ended at he was 35.
Oh,
But his mind was amazing.
You got him taxi like right away, didn't you?
Oh, the taxi story is hilarious because.
Go ahead.
Because Ed Weinberger and Jim Brooks and Stan Daniels, they came down to see him at the Improv. He was working at the Improv, Andy, and he has this character Tony Clifton that he developed.
Okay, did Tony Clifton happen before or after you were part of his life?
Well, he did. When I was working with him, he started doing Tony Clifton, but he didn't do the makeup. He just had like a little mustache, like a character within his act. Then he started putting makeup on, and he would not know that was Andy Kaufman. Tony Clifton, when Ed Weinberg and Jim Brooks came down, the opening act was Tony Clifton, who's an obnoxious lounge singer, insults the audience. What are you talking about? What are you doing? Don't tell me nothing, mister. You know, so he was the opening act. And then there was an intermission while he took his makeup off. And then Andy comes back, and they're trying to cast a foreign mechanic for taxi
Right.
with an accent.
Did they know Tony Clifton was Andy?
No.
They didn't.
They did not. That's part of the story.
Okay.
But they said, well, we have to have him. He's incredible. I mean, he's right there. He doesn't have to do anything. That's the character we want. That's what we envision for Latka Gravis. You know. So I talked to Andy, and Andy said, I really want to do a sitcom. I love doing material and creating new things and being on stage. So I said, but these guys are incredible. They did the Mary Tyler Moore show. They're just brilliant people. And then you could have an opportunity, you know, to really hit it big. And I know you want to do all these shows with all the great costumes and production. And this will give you a funding, you know, to do what you love. So he said, I'll tell you, I will do it only, I don't want to do 22 episodes because I had an order for 22 episodes. He said, I'll do 14 episodes. And if they offer Tony Clifton 4 episodes, I'll do the show. Otherwise, I pass. So I had to go to Eddie and Jim and say, look, he would do it, but only, I said, I also have news for you. That opening act guy that was a little obnoxious, that was Andy under that makeup. And he'll only do it if Tony Clifton gets 4 episodes. And Andy said he would do 14. And they said, well, we need Andy. He's just so perfect. We'll do it.
Wow.
And then I had to negotiate 2 deals because Andy.
You had to negotiate a deal for Tony Clifton?
With Paramount, because Tony Clifton, he wasn't as famous as Andy, so Andy got like 3 times more money. So I had 2 separate deals and I negotiated 2 different parking places and 2 different dressing rooms, one for Andy and one for Tony.
That's hysterical.
And you should have heard. You know, the guys at Business Affairs at Paramount said, what? I said, well, check Eddie Weinberg and Jim Brooks, you know, because I think they're supporting us. So out of the box, the show was a hit. Latka was a huge hit. And then it came time for Tony Clifton to do his episode. And they thought of a good character, Louis De Palma, Danny DeVito. You know, they wrote a kid brother, a ne'er-do-well, you know, guy that drank and gambled, his kid brother, Nick De Palma. And that was Tony Clifton. So Tony Clifton gets the script, first of all, and then he rents a Winnebago bigger than Judd Hirsch's. You know, Tony gets this big, huge Winnebago, is for a dressing room, and he comes down with 2 hookers, a brunette and a blonde, you know, and he said, I want to bring my friends to the reading if that's okay with you, Mr. Weinberger. So he said, okay. So he has one hooker on each very attractive hookers. They dress nice and everything. And then he starts reading the script. He said, bullshit, my line. Bullshit, my line. You know, and so and he has a Jack Daniels. He takes a sip from Jack. Andy Kaufman did not drink.
Really?
But Tony Clifton did.
So he
had the Jack Daniels. And
was it really Jack Daniels?
Yeah.
So he would really drink as Tony?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. He drank it. So then...
That's commitment.
So, and in the contract, I had this in the contract in my infinite wisdom.
Yeah.
That if they fired, I anticipated the possibility of Tony getting fired. If they let Tony go, then Andy would have the option to leave the series.
Wow.
And that's in the contract. I have the contract. And
wow.
the whole thing with the dressing room and separate parking.
That's too funny.
So
you're saying you're not a businessman, but clearly you are.
But that was sort of an emotional thing more than the business part of it. So then 2 weeks, I mean, it was like 2 days into rehearsal. Ed Weimer said, oh my God, he calls me, said, look, it's not working out with Tony. First of all, he's not a good actor. He's been drinking. He's late for rehearsals. It's just not working out. And can we please fire him? I said, well, I have to go to Andy because you know he has the option of leaving the series. So I go to Andy, and I said, I want to fire Tony. And I think Andy might have been not happy with all the makeup and all. So he said, I'll let them fire Tony and stay with the show, only if they fire Tony at the run-through. So that everyone is there, all the people, the stands are packed. It's a 3-camera show, multi-camera show, and it's packed. and why he says you have to fire me in front of everybody. The network, you know, was it was ABC and all the people at Paramount and all the assistants. The place was full because Tax was such a big hit. So he's doing that, and he comes out, and Rich comes out, he gives gifts to everybody, Tony Clifton. He goes, I got gifts to everybody here, come on, look at this, and they have little dolls walking and running around. And then they tell him he's fired. He said, you can't fire me. I have a car. Where's George Shapiro? Get George Shapiro out here. Okay, you can't fire him. Now the cast is really getting upset.
Because he's just giving them presents.
Yeah, but of course, you know, they want to rehearse. They want to get down to business. And Judd Hirsch is yelling at him. I brought a tape recorder. Remember those audio tape recorders?
Sure.
That before you were born?
No, I know those.
Okay. So I taped all the whole conversation. Later on, I gave it to the writers, you know, for Man on the Moon, the exact dialogue with Tony not wanting to go, and then they call security, and, you know, and Bill Nadelseeder, who's a reporter, and he was working, I think, for the LA Times at the time. He was taking pictures and doing a report on the whole thing, and so he took these pictures, and they finally took him out. 3 security guards, you know, took him out and said, "Let me go to my Winnebago." He says, "No, you're coming out." "Let me go. What about the girls?" I don't want to leave the girls. So they threw him all. They threw him out of the set.
Yeah.
And then Bob Zamuda, who was Andy's, writer and worked with Andy, and he made believe he was Tony Clifton's manager because I was Andy's manager. So he was all dressed in a suit, and he got the camera back. Because they confiscated the camera because they didn't want to show an actor being thrown off the set. You know, Paramount didn't want it. But Bob retrieved it, and then he gave it to me, and I went off with it, one of those carts with the wardrobe.
Yeah.
I ran off the lot, and I told Andy I'd meet him at this Nicodale restaurant around the corner. So I get out and I see Andy there. He had the makeup off, and he said, "George, this is the greatest day of my life." He said, "This is theater of the street. This is what I live for." Getting thrown out and fired. He was exuberant. I never saw a happier actor in my life. And that's part of his essence, which was so amazing. And he created all of these incredible characters. And he was a really terrific musician. When Jim Carrey, he was already did Ace Ventura. He was a star, but he wanted to do this picture so badly that he did a audition video himself, and he got the conga drums, played the conga drums beautifully. You know, he's an impeccable impressionist. And I knew Jim when he started out when he was 19 years old.
Oh wow!
And was doing stand-up, and he was the greatest impressionist. And then when Andy died, Jim, you know, he sort of hit a wall here doing stand-up. And he went back to Toronto to Canada, and then he got this job on Living Color. He was known as the only white guy on Living Color. You know, he played Bill, the fire chief, whatever. But and he came to the memorial of Andy when he was 35 years old. Him and Jimmy Miller, his manager, came down, and we saw all these incredible videos. Andy's life's work was incredible, incredible. You know, memorial tribute, and Jim said, "I love Andy Kaufman," and this is 9 years before Man on the Moon. I said, "My dream would be for you to play Andy Kaufman if I do a bio."
Wow!
So I want to do a bio, and sure enough, 9 years later,
wow,
he did it. There was a lot of top actors that wanted to do the role, but I was watching. I sat with Howard and Milos Forman, and the 3 of us watched this tape. And I said, "I love it." And Milos said, "We have to go with him."
Wow.
We have to go with him.
So now, how did they come to cast Danny DeVito as you, George? Because
that's another good question.
What was your original hope?
That's a really good question. I'll tell you, you're asking such an apropos question.
Good.
Because Danny DeVito called me and he said, "You know, I know that you're pitching to Warner Brothers." I was talking about a bio on Andy Kaufman, you know, about his life. And he said, "I know you're pitching this and you're talking to Warner Brothers." And I said, "Milos Forman is interested in doing the movies. I have Milos Forman that would do it. You know, loves Andy, saw his act, and, you know, he has a great affinity towards Andy." And I said we could do it as a joint venture with Shapiro West Productions and Jersey Films, which is Danny DeVito's company. And,
Did Danny and Andy have a good rapport when they were working on Taxi? Were they close?
They loved each other. But everyone was annoyed with Andy. I mean,
Because of Tony Clifton?
and he had his meditation, and and he was just a little offbeat. He wasn't like dedicated by the rest of them, but it was great, and he got great reviews and all that. So, but everyone kind of liked him, even though they were getting annoyed and upset by him. So anyway,
we're talking about how Danny came to play you.
I lost my
I'm
place.
getting you back.
With Danny DeVito. So
Yeah.
Danny said Milos is interested, and it should be a joint venture with Shapiro West Productions and Jersey Films, and I'll play you. And then I said, Danny, I was thinking of Brad Pitt. And that's how I told Danny. I was thinking of Brad Pitt. And this is before Brad did this comedy called Burn After Reading, and he was hilarious in it with George Clooney.
Yes.
He was very funny because prior to that, Thelma and Louise,
Right,
he
serious.
did mostly dramatic kind of roles, but he was very funny in this, and that was it. But I said, but you have a certain amount of warmth and you're funny, and the best thing that happened to me was a little guy. I'm like 5'4.5", 5'5", and I'm a head taller than Danny DeVito. so now, because of that, when people met me, they said, I didn't know you were so tall. So that was the greatest thing in my life. I didn't realize how lucky I was that Danny DeVito played me.
And you had a part in the movie.
Mr. Besserman.
Okay, so what was...
I played the part of Mr. Besserman, who was a nightclub owner that fired Andy Kaufman early in his career because he was doing Pop Goes the Weasel. Didn't we say that, didn't I?
No, we didn't really. We kind of said it before the show, I think.
Oh, did I say it before the show?
Yeah, we didn't say it on here.
Because I don't want to do it twice.
You didn't, no, you didn't do it yet. You didn't do
and
it
we can't
yet.
cut this.
No, we can't cut it. We're live.
Okay.
But what you did say is that as Besserman, you had that line, without the business, there's no show.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
It's show business. Without the business, there's no show. It's show business.
And you came up with that?
Yeah, I came up with that. And then, and Jim was incredible. Show, because he followed my hand. Show business. It's show business. Without the business, there's no show. You understand? And then we walked out of the improv in the hallway. It was just incredible. But I didn't want to do this. I'm not an actor. I did not want to do this. You asked me before if I wanted to be on stage. I didn't like it. Milos Forman said, George, because Milos, as a director, going way back, to Czechoslovakia when he started, he always used like 6 or 7 civilians that never acted before.
Oh, really?
He liked to do that. Put them in the movie. So when he first asked me, he said, you read for Mr. Besserman. And I said, I'm not an actor. I really can't do it. He said, you read, George! You have to say, you can't say no to Milos Forman. George! I remember it like it was yesterday. You read! So I'm studying the lines.
One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, yeah.
Well, he did One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest and Amadeus.
Yeah.
He won 2 Oscars.
Yes, unbelievable.
Both incredible movies, 2 of the greatest movies ever done. So I had to read for Jim Carrey in the room and Milos Forman. And George Shapiro from the Bronx, who never acted, said, I'm not an actor.
Yeah.
And then I started doing the lines that were written. And he said, George, you're thinking of the words. Forget the words. Say what you feel.
Wow.
So then I went back to my relationship with Andy, saying, Andy, it's not a good sign when people walk out in the middle of your act and you're playing Pop Goes the Weasel.
Wait a minute, you mean you said that off the top of your head?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I tried some jokes, and I said, why did the Siamese twins go to London so the other one could drive and he doesn't get it? He said, never.
Wow. So was it healing for you when Man on the Moon came out? Was that?
Could I have some water?
Yeah. This is a
I never
full
talked so much in my life at one time.
So I just I just gave George mine. So.
I want Amy on camera right now.
Okay, Amy, come on in, deliver water. George wants you.
I want Amy here.
I can't believe how much love you're getting. It hasn't stopped for 1 second.
Oh, stop looking! You're distracting me.
I'm sorry. Okay, so all right, so.
Are you sure that's love?
Yeah, that's love.
It's lots of love.
I want to thank everybody for loving me. Thank you very much. This is a toast to you out there.
I'm telling
This
you, you missed your calling.
This is my last appearance, and I'm so glad that I could share it with all of you, because I'm never going to do this again.
Is it so painful?
Vicki Abelson has won me over to do this, and it's because of Phil. Because I know Phil would be upset with me if I said no thank you to Vicki. If I said no thank you.
That's a good Phil.
Yeah. That's Phil. This is Phil.
That's a good.
Hi, Phil. Yes, I'd like some more food. Thank you. The greatest food show ever.
Ever.
Phil Rosenthal is the greatest foodie in the history of foodieism.
Yes, he is.
That's a good word.
Foodieism. I like it.
I love foodieism. The foodieism.
And to somebody feed Phil. Fantastic.
Somebody Feed Phil on Netflix is one of the best shows in the history of television, motion pictures, streaming, everything. God bless Phil Rosenthal.
What
a talent.
Here. And
besides creating Everybody Loves Raymond.
And Maggie Wheeler was at Women Who Write yesterday, at my salon yesterday. Fantastic. She was fabulous.
And that show was incredible.
She was his original choice for the Patricia Heaton role, you know.
I did not know that.
She was.
I did not know that.
And Phil fought for her. And he lost, but he fought for her.
Wow.
Yeah. She told the story yesterday.
Wow, that's incredible.
So all right, so before we move on from Man in the Moon, Amy,
Amy, where's the water? Is Amy out there?
So,
she's right here.
Oh, Amy, come on out. I want you to go on camera.
Come, Amy. Yeah, she's like, no way, George.
Oh, she said no way. She's so beautiful. She was the producer of me. If you're not in the Obit, Eat Breakfast, which is a movie I produced with Amy and Danny Gold, who also directed it. And I had this file called Vitality After 90. I had it for a couple of years, and Amy, kept saying, let's do this movie. And she hit me over the head with the file. I said, okay. So then there's, with Carl Reiner and Mel Brooks and Norman Lear and Kirk Douglas and Dick Van Dyke and Betty White.
Fabulous.
And it was incredible. So because of her, we did this movie. And incidentally,
yes.
Am I allowed to plug things here?
Please.
On December 10th, the DVD is coming out on Amazon, so people could order it. The people that still have DVD players, and I think there's plenty of old people that still have it, and a few young people that still have DVD players. But that, if you're not in the Obit Eat Breakfast, was a treasure for me. It was a work of passion, and with all of these incredible people in it. And we have Ida Keeling, who's a runner in the Bronx. She's 103 years old, and she's still running. And
unbelievable.
I'll show you some pictures of her that are just amazing. 103, and she just recently did the talk, and she did push-ups, and
oh my gosh.
it's just incredible the vitality of some of these people.
Who's going to be in
Kirk Douglas?
Wow.
Who's going to be in the Bronx?
Who is going to be in the Bronx?
The next one is called The Bronx, a documentary on HBO, and we have General Colin Powell is in it, and Alan Alda and Arlene Alda, and Robert Klein sings and dances in the street. Chaz Palminteri, Melissa Manchester.
Fabulous.
It's just an incredible thing. And we go back to the Bronx, to our own neighborhood, which is mostly minority kids. Close, Marshalloo. We went to Deal Clinton's on Marshalloo Parkway, right near Roman Avenue.
Deal Clinton High School? Is that what you said?
D-with-C-L-I-N-T-O-N, bump, Clinton of Clinton, ever to be fairest of high schools. Give it 3 times. Oh, okay, no. She's cutting me. The director is giving me cutting with the singing.
I'm loving it. It's so cute. It's so
You're
cute.
getting a musical here.
I love them. Okay, so let's get to Jerry. How did Jerry happen in your life?
Jerry's so interesting because he was out here. He's from New York, and he came out. And he was working at the Comedy Store. And
what year is this?
This was 1960.
No, not 60. Jerry's my
Make
age.
it 1980.
Okay.
When you get older, the years, 20 years are nothing. It was 1980.
Okay.
July 3rd.
Wow.
1980, I saw him, and I have to give credit to a young man that worked at the office, Jim Canchola, because he saw him first, it was at the Comedy Store.
Had Jerry done television yet? Had he done Johnny yet?
No.
No. Okay.
He hadn't done Johnny yet. Yeah, I think he might have done Merv Griffin.
Okay.
but it was before he did the first Tonight Show.
Mm-hmm.
So, so Jim pointed it out, and I saw him, and I liked him a lot. I brought Howard down. Oh, you know, a certain thing about comedians,
Yeah.
especially if you're a manager, it's almost like when you see a comedian you like, and it happened with Andy and you know, and with Jerry. It's the closest thing to falling in love. When someone makes you laugh that much, and if you're a manager, it's really like a marriage. You're going to see 1,000 shows that he's going to do or she's going to do. So it's an emotional, it's an emotional connection, and I always laughter to me is I worship the comedy gods. You know, God is a good thing, but the comedy gods, they you know, rule my life. You know, I just love it, and there's nothing, you know, better than just sitting and laughing, and that's why. And so it's like falling in love, and I did that when you have a comedian like that. And there was another guy, Dennis Wolfberg, who passed away, and he was
My
hilarious.
husband used to open for him. We were on the road with Dennis.
Oh, you're kidding me!
Right before he got sick, for like a year before he got sick.
Wow.
I love Dennis.
What did your husband do?
Gabe Abelson, he's comic, and
Right.
he was the head monologue writer for Letterman after
Right,
that.
right.
Yeah. But when he was middling for Dennis, and so we were on the road with Dennis.
Yeah, so Dennis was hilarious,
Oh,
and I saw him. I think it was just for laughs at Montreal Comedy Festival. Juste pour rire. I'm going to show off my French accent. J'ai étudié le français à 3 heures à l'école in Dean Clinton High School.
That's really
J'ai
good.
étudié le français.
Wow.
Yes.
I'm impressed. Yeah.
Merci beaucoup. Tout me flattait, c'est vrai?
I'm so. I took Spanish and I can't say a word, but
Oh.
that's beautiful.
Mais mon
Muy bueno.
professeur de français, M. Cushing, oh, c'est très bien. Non, M.
Wow.
Cushing est très bien. Certainement.
Beautiful.
Thank you very
No,
much.
that's really impressive.
So what were we talking about?
So we were talking about
This is what happens when you get
Dennis
old.
Dennis
Yeah.
Wolfberg.
Oh, yeah. Well, Dennis Wolf, and he was hysterical.
Yeah.
And he was a school teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And he transformed into doing stand-up comedy. And he was so emotional about everything. He was, oh, God, did I fall in love with him. And I signed him.
Did you? Oh, you managed Dennis? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I managed Dennis, and I just totally loved him. He was
What
just
was the
hilarious.
TV show that he had at the end? He was on a television show.
Yeah,
What was that show? I don't remember.
right. I forgot
Anyway,
the title.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
But
You must have done
he
that
played a
deal.
professor or something.
Yeah, you must have done that deal.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I forgot. Because you get older, you forget the name of the show.
So, all right.
What
so
was the name
how
of the
did-
show that Dennis was in?
She'll Google it.
Google it. You know, he played this professor. Was a real funny
Yeah,
character.
he was getting some.
Big
He was
guy.
getting some national celebrity, right?
Yeah, and he did HBO. You know, he did a couple of HBO specials.
He had wild red
Hilarious.
hair. He was hysterical.
Yeah, well, let's bring in. You don't have to be on camera. You can hand me the phone with his picture on it.
So what did Dennis have to do with Jerry?
Oh,
Were they
I
at
was
the
talking
same
about
time?
you were asking about
Yeah.
Jerry.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Like he puts my hands down. Get your.
what did you do with your hand?
I don't know. You put my hands down.
Oh, you were trying to touch me. Okay. But my girlfriend Katie Colleen, you know, she's not jealous.
Okay.
So I thank God. I love you, Katie.
So
Thank
sweet.
you for not being jealous of this beautiful blonde.
Oh.
But she's married with kids.
No, I'm not married. I'm divorced.
Oh, you're divorced. She's divorced.
I'm single. Watch
I
out,
did not
baby.
know that. Katie! I didn't know that. I thought she was still married. I must have read an old bio.
He's my husband. Okay, so all right, so get back to Jerry.
Oh, you know, so he was so funny, and also he attracted all of the comedians. The comedians so appreciated how clever he was and how great his material was, and you know how dedicated he was to writing it and forming it. It was like a craftsman, like George Carlin. You know, George Carlin, you know, was one of you know Jerry's inspirations. Robert Klein and George Carlin, you know, doing this great observational comedy and honing it, wordsmith, every word counted. And the funny thing is that Jerry, when I think it was 26 years old, 25 or 26, when I met him, and he would do his material standing behind the mic. Now, at the age of 64, he's flying across the stage. He has all this incredible physicality in his act. It's such an inspiration. You know, the way he grew, and he was like physically, you know, he was quiet as far as body movement and physicality was concerned when he started out.
Right.
And it just emerged, and now he's like an incredible performer on stage, like a kid in his 20s or 30s on stage.
George, was
And
that
he's
teacher,
64.
Teacher?
What, Amy?
Was it teacher?
Teacher? Maybe.
Yeah, that Teacher was
Yeah.
one, but there was another one. I think it was a dramatic show series that he was on.
Quantum Leap?
Yes,
Leap.
Quantum Leap,
Leap.
that
Dennis
was it.
Wahlberg and Quantum Leap.
That's what it was. That was
Okay.
the one when he started to get famous.
Yeah. But he still sold out comedy clubs and
Oh,
everything.
yeah.
But as I said, with Jerry has been so such an inspiration to me, and it was such fun working with him and getting him.
So did you go after seeing him that first time? Did you okay, I want to manage you? How did that happen?
Yeah, well, as soon as Howard and I saw him and Jimmy saw him, he agreed to sign, and then poor Jimmy, he passed away to AIDS, Jim Canchola, and so I worked with Jerry and helped. I wrote this letter to Brandon Todikoff saying, "Call me a crazy guy, but I think soon Jerry will have a series on NBC." And Jerry put that letter in the letters of the century. A letter. I just sent this letter. I said he was working for the first time in the theater in New York, first theater day in New York, and I sent this letter, to Brandon Todikoff, who was president of NBC.
What year was that? Do you remember?
Yeah, it was 1987, and it was right before, because it was 88 maybe, and because he did the pilot in 89. The show went on in 89 and went off in 98. It was 9 years. So I said that. Call me. But I said he's working at Town Hall in New York, beautiful theater. I said you're invited, and any of you New York people are welcome to come. No one came, but the letter triggered a meeting. So let's bring in Jerry for a meeting.
Wow.
And the meeting was, with Rick Ludwin, and he's a head of Variety, Warren Littlefield, and Brandon, when they were talking, and Brandon said, we like you. You may want to do a talk show, a late night talk show, a variety show. If you think of something. And Jerry said, I just wanted a meeting like this. I don't care. It was so funny. And then like 3 days later, he went to New York and did Catch a Rising Star with Larry David, and they talked about the fact that NBC was interested, and they walked around supermarkets, made fun of it, ended up in a coffee shop. And Larry and Jerry, this should be the show, two comedians talking.
I love that.
Yeah.
Love that.
Oh, that's great. And then they decided to have one of them a civilian, like George Costanza, would be in real estate or some other job, so that instead of having two comics, because the balance is better. And so that's what triggered it. And then I was telling you a story because Julia was so hilarious, and she.
Okay, I watched you told me to watch the Mark Twain, where she got the Mark Twain award, and that piece that she did at the end when she accepted her award may be the funniest.
Well, Jerry said the same thing.
Oh my God.
If you didn't see it, I'm sure they keep playing it on PBS Go.
It's also on, you can
but
get
it's
it
on
on
the Mark
YouTube.
Twain Prize. No, where?
I saw it on YouTube.
Oh, the whole show.
Yeah, the whole show's
No,
on
the
there.
whole show's on YouTube. It's the Mark Twain Prize for Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Oh.
Jerry said she was absolutely brilliant, accepting the award. Monologue that was so hilarious and brilliant. Jerry was so taken with it that I never saw him get so excited. And the whole history was great. And she did an incredible episode of Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee.
Oh yes, she did.
Because their connection was immediate. In fact, when I did that little thing for the Mark Twain Prize, I had called Larry, because I was in all the casting sessions on Seinfeld from the beginning. But when Julia, the connection with Julia, I asked Larry David how that came about. And he said, well, he worked on Saturday Night Live with Julia. The one season, Larry was a writer. That was one of the seasons that Julia was there. And he recommended Julia, to Jerry for casting. And they just had a meeting, and they had a script. They read a couple of scenes, and that was it. The chemistry was there immediately. And it was an
And she's
absolutely
based
incredible
on Carol Leifer, right?
Yes, Carol Leifer and Jerry, a boyfriend, girlfriend, and then they became very close friends, which they still are. So that was the character. And it was one time that NBC suggested strongly and this was at the very beginning when the ratings weren't very strong. They strongly suggested that Jerry marry Elaine Bennis, that they get married, and Jerry and Larry, we were in the parking lot outside NBC. We had, after they said that, and Larry said, "That's not the show. This is a show with 4 great friends. She's one of the great friends, and it's a whole different show. The other 2 would be sort of out in left field."
Right.
So, and then they both took the stand. Now that if NBC insists on it, then they'll do the 4 episodes. They only had done 4 episodes at the time. And then Larry David and then Larry took a big stand, and this was very important. Jerry was making a living. He was doing great,
In the clubs.
Great clubs. He was making money, but Larry was fired, from where he quit, whatever it was with Saturday Night Live. That was one of the episodes of Seinfeld. George Costanza quit, and then he comes back. He said, and he forgets to say anything. Just comes back, pays no attention to that. Larry did the same thing on SNL when he quit because they didn't use his sketches. So Larry said, "I'm not going to do the show if they insist on this." And Jerry agreed. They both said that. And Larry said, "I only have 4 shows in me anyway." I'll never forget that.
Wow.
But
wait, before you can keep talking, but I want to show what you
how
have
long
here.
have we been doing this? I don't know.
Don't worry
Hey,
about
we've
it.
been doing over an hour.
But
hey,
I want to
Hey.
show that this is the Seinfeld set right here. Look, it's on top of George, and
that's
little,
fabulous.
Oh, it's fantastic, and the little stool fell out. I'm gonna have to put it back. But the other thing I wanted to show is in George's office. We know why there's Junior Mints. One of the funniest episodes that has ever
Yeah,
been.
they have a
ever.
great promotion with they're gonna do a whole thing.
Oh yeah.
See now, this is really next year is 2019.
Right.
And it's the 30th anniversary
Ah.
of the beginning of Seinfeld. And they're gonna do a lot of building. Maybe the set's gonna be built. They did it a few times at a couple of comedy festivals where they built, Jerry's apartment and Soup Nazi counters. So they're gonna be doing that in celebration next year. They're gonna have a big celebration of that. So that's gonna be incredible. And
Larry Thomas came and
Larry
did
Thomas, the soup.
He came
the
and did my living room.
Yeah, the Soup Nazi is gonna be all over the place. He's worked a lot of places already.
Yes, he has.
Yeah, Clusterfest, which was a big comedy festival a couple of years ago. Jerry did it, and the Soup Nazi was there, and they had Festivus for the rest of us room, with the pole and all this merchandising, and the apartment and the kitchen. So they're going to do a lot of stuff like that next year, and I'll keep you informed.
There are more
Yeah.
iconic expressions,
Oh, and the
moments.
expressions, all of
Nothing
that.
has ever
So,
come close
yeah.
to Seinfeld for that.
Yeah.
It's so. How did you do the American Express thing? I mean, because that's iconic also. Jerry's American Express ads. What was whose brainchild was that?
Well, Jerry was sort of involved with the developing of the American Express commercials.
But how did that happen?
Well, just an interest in Jerry, and Jerry did it, but he got very involved in the writing of it and everything else, and he had this great couple of shows with Superman, and walking down the street with Jerry, because they were very good friends. Patrick Warburton,
Yes.
who's incredible. He played Superman, and they were walking down the street together and everything else. And they go into, this is one of the episodes that they go into a coffee shop and they're having coffee. Superman is there, the animated Superman, and Jerry, and this guy comes running in and he says, Superman, I don't know if you remember, I was hanging from a trestle. I was about to die. I had no strength left, and you saved me. You whipped right in and brought me to dry land. You saved my life. You're the greatest thing that ever happened in the history of mankind. And he looks at Jerry and says, you're good too. I think Jerry wrote that, but there were so many great things with the lingo when he went to England. There was the soccer thing, singing, here we go, here we go, here we go. Another musical number. Here we go, here we go. But this is my last appearance.
By the way, the word trestle, as soon as you said it, it warmed my heart, but only us from New York knows what a trestle is.
Is that right?
I don't know.
No, see, they don't know trestle, George.
Right.
But what is
A
it?
trestle the subway used to run above the ground, above
Yeah, it was
above
an
ground.
elevated train.
And so that was the trestle,
Yeah.
right? The elevated train.
It's almost like a bridge, you know,
Yeah.
like it was hanging from there, and Superman saved them. But the delivery of that line was so great.
And so how did comedians in cars having coffee? How did that? Did Jerry always want to do that? Is that a new idea? Newish. He's been doing it a long time.
No, Jerry had the idea of like his friend Barry Water and him used to go cross country. They used to drive all the time, and he used to do the video of them driving and talking. So
Right.
it's really
Well, that was from Comedian, right?
That started, even before that, I think.
Oh wow.
But it was an idea that Jerry had, and it just got to the timing was just right. And then Steve Moscow was the head of Sony. He was the head of television at Sony. And my partner Howard West said, Steve would like this, And we went in, and they did, because Jerry and Barry did this little piece, short pilot. It was a presentation, really. And showed it to Steve, and he jumped out of his chair like within 60 seconds. He said, this is great. Let's do it. We'll do it with Embassy Row, which is owned, it's a production company owned by Sony, and it was on Crackle. So it started as a network, internet show, and now, of course, it's on Netflix, and with new episodes coming on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Christine and I were just talking about the fact that we've both seen every
And you saw
episode.
Obama?
Oh,
You saw
yes.
President
Yeah.
Obama?
Oh yeah, they were all great.
They're
Right.
all great.
Oh,
They are.
super.
All unique and all fabulous. My favorite is when he brings the deli to Mel and Carl.
Oh, with Mel and Carl was great, the two of them.
Yeah.
Oh, that was great. He picked up the deli, and it was also fun for him casting cards for different people.
Oh,
You know,
it was
because
so great.
he talked to Carl, and Carl said, I was in my life, I was never in a Rolls Royce. So he gets the car, and he's in this big car. I said, and he does a turning radius. There's no turning radius. And he said, what this is a good living room. It's not a good car. and then they had a great time, at lunch, and then Carl invited Jerry over for dinner with Mel Brooks, and Mel did not stop performing. He was singing and dancing throughout the whole thing. And
So tell them about Carl and Mel in real life and what their relationship
Well,
is
Carl and Mel met each other when they were doing the show of shows. It was 1950. So, I mean, that's getting close to 70 years, right?
It's a long time.
Yeah, 68 years.
My favorite movie is
And
My
Me-
Favorite Year, which is about
Yeah.
there when that whole thing was happening.
Yeah. And then Carl and Mel, they met at the show of shows. And then one day Carl walked in, he threw this question at him. He just made it up. I'm talking to the 2,000-year-old man right now. And he said, and he asked him, you must have known, Jesus, very nice, thin lad, came into my store, never bought anything. So and that started the 2,000-year-old man. I think they did 5 albums, and it's a wonderful special. And I was also, featured in If You're Not in the Obit, Eat Breakfast. And Sheila Nevins, who was the head of, documentaries for HBO. And so my original title was Vitality After 90, which was not good, because then you think it's about old people. And Sheila Nevins, in her infinite wisdom, use Carl's joke at the beginning of the special. When Carl started, the opening of the documentary, Carl says, I walk down to the front door, I get the New York Times or LA Times, I open up to the obituary section, if I'm not in it, I eat breakfast. So Sheila Nevins, she said that should be the title. If you're not in the obit, eat breakfast. And
That's great.
she was great, and she also made a lot of great comments. She and Lisa Heller, of HBO, they worked with us on it, and they gave us absolutely great notes. Of all my experience with any network executives, these were the most creative notes. The cuts were good, expanding the 2,000-year-old man, and the title, because how often do you say a title and you get a laugh on
Right,
the
absolutely.
title? So she did that. So Carl, now on December 10th, I might have mentioned this, but I could say it again.
Yes.
The DVD is coming out. You can order it from Amazon on the 10th. If you're not in the Obit, eat breakfast.
It's fantastic.
And they're all great in it. Carl Reiner, Mel Brooks, and Dick Van Dyke. And Norman Lear is tremendous. Because Mel does a singing number from the Catskills when he was working in the Catskills, and Norman was laughing so hard, and he said, "You just added 6 years to my life."
Aww.
And that's the joy of what I'm talking about, of laughter. You know, and Tony Bennett sang "The Best Is Yet to Come," which was so perfect for the show. And Betty White was a delight. With, you know, they call it, and she go back to her husband was a commanding officer.
Oh,
you know,
wow.
so
I didn't know that.
in the army.
Wow.
So it was an absolute, you know, gem and the joy of it. And Kirk Douglas, in December 9th, is going to be 102.
Oh, Jesus.
And he's still writing. So anyway, so December 10th, that's coming out. December 13th is Dick Van Dyke's 93rd birthday. December 14th, this incredible special, the third annual Dick Van Dyke Now in Living Color special is coming out.
Did you exec produce this one too?
Yeah, I was the executive producer of that. Paul Brownstein was part of it, and then they show 2 colorized episodes of Dick Van Dyke.
Colorized? I can't
Because it
even
was in
imagine
black and
that.
white. Because these are colorized and they're done brilliantly.
Really?
Paul Brownstein did an incredible job.
Wow.
And one of them is called Never Bathe on Saturday, where the storyline is Mary Tyler Moore. They're going on a second honeymoon to this beautiful hotel, champagne, caviar, and she wants to take a bath before, and she goes into the bathroom, and she gets her toe is stuck
Oh, I remember
in
that.
the
I
faucet.
do too.
So Carl says, of course, everyone is like visualizing naked Mary Tyler Moore, and she had locked the door, and they couldn't get in, and the whole show is about her being, you know, and the bathtub was hilarious. That's the other one. And the other one is said, "Where do I come from?" And Richie asked him about how did he get on Earth. So they're 2 gem of episodes. So that's going to be on December 14th. And then Dick Van Dyke, you know, returns. Mary Poppin Returns is going to be on that's going to be released on December 19th. You know, by Disney. Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Yeah, I turned down a screening for that. And Lynn was going to be there talking about it. Yeah, last night.
Yeah,
it was last night.
Yeah.
Oy.
How fun.
I can't wait to see the film.
Yeah. So anyway, so Dick, he's 92. Now he's going to be 93. But he was 92 and he sings and dances in it.
Unbelievable.
And that's on the trailer. You can see it on the trailer. You know, so and Carl and Mel just did Toy Story 4. They recorded it in Carl's house. Carl plays Carl Rhinoceros. And Mel plays Melephant Brooks. Rhinoceros and an elephant, you know, who are best friends. And they were both hilarious. You know, ad-libbing, and they recorded that. That's coming out, I think, next summer. June or July of next summer.
And I'm sure Carl's working on another book as well, because he's always working on a book.
He's working on a book. He keeps working on books. And Angie Tribeca does a show with Rashida Jones. He did this show that they filmed. He plays an ex-head of the FBI, and they're trying to get Heather Graham and Rashida Jones are trying to get information. They're a special unit of the police department. They're trying to convince them to give them information, and they can't make any progress in his living room. And then they cut to them in the bedroom, the 3 of them in bed with Carl Reiner at the age of 96. He is my hero. So this is what Carl is doing.
And so So Jerry, Comedians in Cars. Anything else? Does Jerry have any?
Well, Jerry did this incredible special called Jerry Before Seinfeld.
Yes.
Which is on Netflix now, and because he's been, you know, writing jokes, you know, since he's like 20 years old. He has every joke he ever wrote on legal pads, and there was one scene. So he did it. He recreated a lot of the stuff at the comic strip in New York, and that's where the first time he was on stage. So he did the show from the comic strip, and reminiscing about everything, doing the thing, talking about his parents came, and he said he was never funny at home. His father was a very funny guy, and he wasn't funny. And his parents were in the audience. He says, "I don't know how to tell you this, but I'm a funny guy. I want to follow this lifestyle." So you know, it was like he came out to his parents being a comedian. So that we did that when I was one of the producers of that.
It's fantastic. I was there at the premiere.
Yeah,
and he also had all of his jokes on the street.
Well, that was so great. I think. I mean, that's like an incredible
Tell them.
book cover. He had all of the jokes, the legal pads, on a huge New York street, and he's sitting cross-legged in the middle of it, like a cute little
Underneath
boy,
the whole
surrounded by a whole street full of his.
I think it was Minetta Lane, wasn't it Minetta Lane where he had
I
all
don't-
his?
I
Yeah, I
don't
think it's
remember the
Minetta Lane
street.
in the Village, and he had the
But-
entire thing.
But it was a
his
huge
jokes.
street, and it was all covered with his jokes, you know, and that's going to be part of a book that he probably will be doing, and
Funny.
and then he has another stand-up special to do, and another 12 episodes are coming out of Comedians and Cars Getting Coffee,
Good.
and Jerry's so involved in all of it.
Can
know,
you
the
leak?
editing.
Can you leak any of the guests that are coming up on the next batch?
I don't know.
I don't know. Okay, I won't press you.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe I'll leave it up to Netflix
Okay.
to say that.
Okay. So, and how about
But-
for George Shapiro? Is there anything?
But I think, you know, there was some publicity. I think someone had mentioned, you know, because of this internet thing and the tweets and
Mhm.
someone tweeted about Murphy Brown, you know. No, what was it? Eddie Murphy, I meant.
Mhm.
Murphy Brown is good also. I love Murphy Brown. But Eddie Murphy, I think that was revealed that him and
Ah.
a few other people, I think
Mhm.
Brian Regan is doing another
Oh,
one.
he's so funny.
Yeah. So, because the people see him at the restaurant, so they mention who's going to be on. Seth Rogen. But it's going to be a tremendous season coming on. I think Jerry's started editing it now, and it'll be on in the summer.
Excellent.
June or July will be.
And how about for you, George Shapiro? Is there anything that
This
you
is my
have-
last appearance.
But is there anything that? Oh, I touched his lip. I'm sorry. Tell
We're
your
doing
girlfriend I'm
another.
sorry.
We're doing. I'm working. You know, we'll be working with Jerry on his next special. He's doing another stand-up special that'll come out in 2019
Okay.
for Netflix.
You can do a favor
Yeah.
for our audience. Would you do a favor, please? Because you have discovered and cultivated talent that has changed the world. Tell me when you, is it instinct?
Over the top.
Is it instinct? What when you
Yeah,
when,
yeah.
do you know in the first
I told you, really, it is instinct. It
Okay.
is instinct, because I said it's like falling in love.
Right.
You know, sometimes you might get rejected. I mean, I fell in love, and
Have you ever been rejected?
Well, I wasn't rejected, but I fell in love, but they had a love already, because I fell in love. I loved you know, Ray Romano, and he was Rory Rosegartner was
No,
ready as
Rory.
manager. You just see someone like Harry Colomby was the manager of Michael Keaton. I saw him in a club when he first started out doing comedy. You know, so yeah, I mean, it's instinct, and it's very personal, because that's why so many people can be elevated. You may say, how did this person become a star? Because maybe there was a manager that believed in him and worked, and because the manager's their job is to put the bat in the hands of the performer. If it's a comedian, you know, they can't do the stand-up, but they give them opportunities.
So
You know,
how-
and that's what I loved about being a manager.
Uh-huh.
And then that turned into, you know, producing, and it was just a joy of my life, because I'm around laughter all the time. And I think this is George Shapiro signing off, because my voice is getting going.
Okay, but wait, one more thing before we go.
This is supposed to be an hour. I think it's been on an hour.
All right,
and a
so
half.
have you seen anybody lately that's really excited you?
Well, you know, I love Jim Gaffigan, right?
Yes.
John Mulaney. I mean, a lot of
Oh, yeah.
Kevin Hart.
Mhm.
I mean, there's so many, and Kevin Hart is just he did Comedians of Cars Getting Coffee, and it's just it's exciting, you know, to see these young performers.
All right, well, I know.
Melissa Villa, Padre.
I just want you to know how happy George is making people.
I know, the love just keeps
And
flying up.
I want you to read this, Vicki. Our veterinarian.
You read it. You
Our
read it.
veterinarian, Dr. Lisa Newell, who you know, Dr. Lisa.
Dr. Lisa, right.
Dr. Lisa
Lisa
just texted me. She's at home with her
Come here,
mother.
you want to sit here?
Yeah.
I know, but I'll read this because I
Okay.
know.
Get her.
Lisa, I hope you hear me.
Oh.
My mom is really enjoying this, by the way. She needed it today. Unfortunately, she broke her arm this weekend and had to go to the orthopedist
Andy.
today for a cast, and she's in an amount of pain that is so sad to see. But her watching Georgie and hearing the stories is making her smile and laugh so much, which makes me cry of happiness.
Oh.
I
Oh my
hate
God.
to see my mom
Getting
in
that?
pain. This is
Cameras.
really taking her mind off of it.
Oh.
All right,
That's
so
fabulous.
say hi to Lisa, right? What's her mom's name? Do we know her mom's name?
Lisa's
mom.
Lisa's mom.
Hi, Lisa's mom.
Dr. Lisa, we love
Thank you.
you.
Thank you, Dr. Lisa. Thank you, Dr. Lisa's mommy.
And so, as we're signing off, George, I want to say on behalf of everybody who's watching that I thank you because
Villasenor.
because
Her name is Melissa Villasenor.
really
Sally.
Sally. Okay.
No, the comedian,
Oh.
a young comedian that's doing comedians in cars getting coffee. And I saw some of her stand-up, and she's wonderful. Like, it's nice to discover new people. Trevor Noah, Jerry used Trevor Noah before he got, the late, what's his name?
I don't know.
The Daily Show.
Oh,
The Daily
yeah,
Show.
of course.
He discovered him before that. I mean, it's such a great thing when you find someone and they just explode with
yeah.
in the world of comedy.
Well, you've helped a lot of people explode. You've helped important people explode, and you've brought so much joy. The laughter that you love.
I can't handle this.
The laughter that you love that makes you so happy. You see, this is gonna make me cry now.
Yeah.
But you have brought so much laughter and joy to this world,
Right.
and I am so grateful to you. And so, on behalf of everybody out there, I say thank you, George Shapiro.
Okay, thank you so much, and I want to thank, Jim Carrey. Of course, he made me laugh.
Your hands on my leg. Your girlfriend's gonna get upset.
Oh, I'm sorry, Katie. But you know what I love about you, Katie? You're not jealous. I love that about you. I just love it about you. Oh, and I'm glad we got secretly married, spiritually married. I'm happy about that.
Really? Did you?
Spiritually married.
I love that.
Me too.
And you meditate. We didn't even talk about that.
Oh, that's.
You've got this whole other world.
But I don't know if I don't know if
It's
that's fun.
interesting.
But Jim Carrey gave me
Okay.
so many laughs. Amy and I saw Ace Ventura at the theater. I didn't stop laughing from beginning to end. I mean, and then the joy I had with Jim Carrey doing Man on the Moon, because I was with Andy Kaufman, for 4 months. Every day I was with Andy Kaufman again, and I loved him so much. And there was a recreation of Carnegie Hall,
Is that when he took everybody for?
yeah, cookies and milk, and Robin
took the
Williams.
whole audience.
And Robin Williams was one of the people that gave out the cookies.
Get out of here.
Yeah. Not only that, but Robin Williams played his grandmother. He was sat on stage. He said, "My grandma is here." This was, we got a wig and makeup as an old lady.
Before
And he was
was
sitting
it before Mrs. Doubtfire?
Yeah, because Mrs. Doubtfire called me. I mean, the producers wanted to know who did the makeup.
Get out of
So
here.
it was before Mrs. Doubtfire. And this was a concept by Andy. So that the grandma was sitting in the audience. He said, "Grandma, I want you to have a great seat. I brought you a chair in from Miami. And sit in this chair and watch the show." And it was Robin Williams, in this beautiful grandma outfit with the hair. And he sat, Robin Williams, for 2.5 hours, sat on the stage.
No.
He even dozed off like a little old lady. And at the end of the show, at Carnegie Hall, he thanked Santa Claus and the Norman Tabernacle Choir, the Rockettes, and then he wanted to thank his grandma, who was really Robin Williams, and he took the wig off, and everyone went nuts.
Oh my
And
God.
Robin sat there. How's that for a friend?
Wow.
And Robin was with me when Andy, passed away. The last breath, he was there at the hospital with his mother and dad and me, and his brother and sister. So anyway, but Jim Carrey has elevated my life so much. And then I saw this documentary that he was really responsible for, called Jim and Andy: The Great Beyond, which is on Netflix. And it was so brilliant, and I laughed and I cried watching this thing, because there was a scene. I mean, and I didn't realize he brought the cameras around, so he had all the footage. I thought it was a publicity, from Universal, but it was him. And there was one scene when they recreated the scene with Andy going to the Philippines when he was bald and had cancer, and I hugged him, during the documentary. I was hugging Andy. I mean, it was Jim as Andy, and I just burst into tears. While I was watching that, and I didn't even know it was filmed.
Wow.
This was the first time I noticed it was filmed. But Jim Carrey is just an incredible artist, and he's doing great artwork. You could look at him on the internet and see the incredible artwork he's doing. I love you, Jim. Anyway, thank you very much for seeing my last appearance on television.
I have a feeling this
Thank
is
you
going to be
very
the
much.
start something big, George.
Elvis would say, thank you very much. Very,
Very,
very much.
very much. Very